this always, like, honestly, I got to say this as we start this, but I think it's cool that Jamey Jasta has a podcast.
Yeah.
And also it's on Gas Digital, which is, what's his name? Louis Gomez and,
Jay Okerson.
Yeah. And, Dave Smith is on Gas Digital too.
Yeah.
So do you know much about John 5?
He is the guitar player or bass player for
Motley Crue,
Crue.
guitar player right now.
Was he a bass player at some point?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't know why I thought that.
Well, let's preface this with this then. John William Lowry, born July 31st, known by the stage name John 5, is an American guitarist. Lowry first took the stage name in 1998 when he left David Lee Roth's solo band and joined Marilyn Manson. So he was originally in Marilyn Manson. Lowry later became the guitarist for Rob Zombie, and in 2022 became
that's where I know him, I think.
Motley Crue. Yeah. He's also a solo artist. He also does his own solo stuff. But he's from Michigan. So, but he was on Jasta recently talking about the Motley Crue thing, and our audience loves Motley Crue. So let's talk about this for a minute. He seems like a really cool guy.
Yeah,
I will say that without a doubt.
Video somewhere on YouTube, and I brought her up on stage, and I said, we're gonna get through this. We're gonna beat this together. And just recently,
even if you look back, say 10, 15 years ago, right? Like if you're learning and you're growing and you're getting ready so that, you're staying ready so you don't have to get ready when an opportunity like join Rob Zombie or join Motley Crue comes up, if they could be so lucky, for all you aspiring guitar players and musicians out there, it doesn't mean you have to then not do what brought you to the dance. And I think, when you had said about moving to LA when you were younger and trying to go after your dream, it reminded me of just going to every show, flyering, giving demos. You never know who you're going to network with. And through all that work, right, you've gotten to this position. It might seem like overnight for some people who aren't in the John 5 collective consciousness of fans, like myself, but to others, you've put in that grind from the Sunset Strip to now being in Motley Crue.
I thought that this is interesting, kind of parallel between what we were talking about too with Paul Stanley.
Yeah.
And that's a good point too. It's like, I always thought that was interesting. Steve Jobs, in his biography, he said, like, kind of the thing that started his career is he's like, I would just email people. He's like, I would just email like the head of Oracle in Silicon Valley and be like, hey, I need some cables or whatever. Like Steve Jobs ended up getting a job at Atari back in the day just because he emailed the owner or talked to the owner and he liked him, this guy, Nolan Bushnell.
Yeah.
So it's like what he's saying here, it's like, you never know who's going to come across your path when you're flying or, trying to promote your band or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you saw Motley Crue, and do you remember the best time you saw them on the Strip?
Absolutely. I saw them. Well, my mom wouldn't let me go to the early shows. So the first time I saw them was Theater of Pain, and
by the way, that's
going to the show, and I remember it was so loud. And you've gone to concerts when you're younger and you remember certain things, but I remember it was so loud that I was right in front of Mick, and it was so loud I couldn't believe the volume, the volume. And that's when they had that song Louder Than Hell, which is, I was like, wow, that really is super, super loud. But it was such a magical concert. I remember it.
That album might have been Motley Crue's peak.
I forgot. So they have beef with Mick Mars, and that's why John 5 is filling in.
Yeah, so let's go into that a little bit because I think Mick was sick. Like he had cancer or something.
Yeah, I mean, I know he didn't look he looks like he was like plugging away.
Yeah, hold on a sec. Let's see.
But I think they got into a dispute about like song, like
it might have been with touring. Here, let me show you this real quick. This is from Google AI. We'll just use Google AI today.
Yeah.
Thanks, Google. Mick Mars, the guitarist for Motley Crue, is in a legal battle with the band after he announced he would no longer tour due to ankylosing spondylitis, a bone disease that affects the spine. In October 2022, Mars announced he would no longer tour with the band, but would remain a member. He said he would be able to record and perform in residencies. The band announced that Mars was retiring and would be replaced by John 5. The band also announced that Mars had made mistakes on stage, such as playing the wrong song in the middle of another. Mars claims the band tried to oust him and take his 25% ownership stake in the band. He also claims the band gaslit him by alleging he had cognitive dysfunction. In January 2024, Mars won an initial legal battle against the band. So, while change is never easy, we accept Mick's decision to retire from the band due to challenges with his health. We have watched Mick manage his ankylosing spondylitis for decades, and he's always managed it with the utmost courage and grace. To say enough is the ultimate act of courage. So that's kind of the, I guess, basis of it.
Yeah, it's 30 years. Now you think about it, and I, just like you, we haven't worked a day in our lives.
True. That was the main thing, was like, I don't want to go back. No disrespect to the Colony Inn or any of the other jobs I held, but I was a prep cook, and I was like, anything I can do to just not have to go back to being a prep cook.
Jasta was a prep cook. You hear that?
Yeah. I was thinking about that a minute ago while we were watching this, because I obviously have to figure out what I'm going to do for a place next year. So I got to figure out a job, and I do not want to work in food. So my goal would be to either find a job in music or start making money, off Brutal Planet, or.
Let's keep going with John 5 here and Jamey. So listen,
the Wolfgang calls and say, all right, Sammy and me and Mike are going out, and we need you in there too.
He's talking about Wolfgang Van Halen. Just so you know,
we're gonna go 5-piece.
Not Wolfgang Puck.
With not Wolfgang Puck. Yeah,
my bad.
Motley.
Not the other famous Wolfgang.
Yeah, if you were thinking of Wolfgang Puck, it's
Wolfgang Mozart, not Wolfgang Mozart. Not.
Yeah, is there another Wolfgang?
Those are the only Wolfgangs. There's a band called Wolfgang.
I might have to name my son Wolfgang.
Or maybe Wolfpack. My bad. Anyway, this is good. Listen to what he says here. I thought this was cool because it's just.
You would do it?
Well, I would always see, and how I've always done things is I've always given the respect of who I'm playing for. I always check with them. Everything about this business is communication, I think. Everything is communication. So if something like that would happen, if someone was in a real bind and, oh man, we need blah, 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 I would first, before anything, go, to Motley and say, this is, they're in a bind or something like that. And communicate that way. And I think that communication is like the number one thing. But I could play every day, every night, and be fine with it, not be tired or anything. I don't know what it is, but even with at the end of Rob, I even told Rob, I'll finish out these gigs for you, no problem. It's not a problem whatsoever. And but they got rigs and everything, so I was ready to do both those things. So it was, but life is good. Again, like, it's just like if someone played basketball or something like that, and they love playing basketball, and they're like, oh, you get to play a game every night. That person would probably be like, oh, that's awesome. But, that's how I am. That's how I feel. I have no problem playing a concert every night. I really don't. It's very strange.
Well, and also I feel like now you have this reputation of just being reliable and responsible and cool to be around. Where
that's what he wanted.
If something
that's what
was
he
to
worked
come
for
up,
his life for, to be able to do that. So, of course he's
and to that point too, it's like what he just said. It's like that's so rare in musicians. I think sometimes like the communication and just being mature and professional.
Well, and I was gonna say, sorry,
Go
keep
ahead.
going.
No,
I was gonna just say too, I like that he's humble about where he's at, because I feel like a lot of musicians get to a certain point, and maybe it's because he kind of built himself up like grassroots and kind of like went from the bottom to the top, so he knows, but I feel like a lot of musicians don't understand how fortunate they are to be playing like arenas and shit every night. And I'm sure it's stressful, but it's also like, dude, people are fucking lining up to come see you, and maybe not you, but you're still in a band. Like, he's in the band to play.
yeah,
I'm sure that's like his dream as a kid, and maybe not Rob Zombie or Marilyn Manson in particular, but like to just be on stage and playing shows like that. So I feel like some people get all like, it's like that Eminem syndrome, I'm going to start calling it. Like, you get too out of touch where like, and I'm not saying he does this, but he just kind of has lost touch, with the world. And so his lyrics, not his live, but like his lyrics and stuff aren't the same as they were. And so some people just get to a point where they're so, successful that they just don't appreciate where they're at, I guess. And I think he is definitely grounded John 5 for sure.
and like there's a lot of people like Eminem too that are Chuck D, like a lot of these like older rock stars and rappers. It's hard to like, you change as you get older and stuff, and so I get that. But also, like, I respect, that's why you respect a guy like Paul Stanley or Gene Simmons, or
just stay true to yourself is what I feel like. And I mean, I guess if that's how they wanted to live, do your thing. I'm sure Eminem doesn't really give a fuck what people, it seems like maybe he does, but
that was one of his most popular songs. I don't give a fuck.
Like, I don't think he really cares. So I don't know, but I think it's nice to see someone at John 5's success that's still like, I love this.
I just love to play.
Like
I'm here to jam.
Like legendary. Like I use that as a hypothetical. Obviously there's no plans for that I know of, but, and I don't even know how that would work. Right. Because I'm sure Wolfie could play the guitar, but if you got Michael Anthony, does Wolfie, move to guitar? Or maybe if Sammy and Michael Anthony call and they do their own thing, you can step in. But is there anybody out there that you would want to jam with that you haven't yet?
I think so. Now, like, I'm so fortunate with what I'm doing now with Motley Crue. I'm just so fortunate. My dreams have been so fulfilled that, of course you never stop dreaming, but like, I'm just very happy and very fortunate to be.
Just pause for a second and think about this guy's career. His first like big band, he played with Randy Castillo from Ozzy, but then he played with Marilyn Manson, and then he played with Rob Zombie, and now he's playing with Motley Crue.
Yeah,
like, that's quite the resume.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and like it's funny. He just started saying that after I said that. But yeah, he seems like he's super, respectful and very like grounded in the position.
Yeah, and you didn't even watch this interview.
Yeah, I had no idea he was going to say that.
Doing what I'm doing, and I couldn't really ask for anything more or anything better in my life. And I just, don't want to sound like a spoiled brat where I'm like, oh, well, I want to play with this guy or this guy or this guy. I'm so happy and lucky to be doing what I'm doing. So it's wonderful. But when you're saying like, oh, you were, you're prompt, you're reliable and all that stuff. The one time I was late, this is a funny story. I don't think I've ever told anyone this story, but it was the very first day of Motley rehearsals. And I was early. I was like really early. And I was like, what do I do? Maybe I'll go to Target. Oh, that's Churro.
Shout out to Churro.
Come on, Churro. Come here. So what I did was I went. Hold on. He's barking at somebody. Here, I'll show you Churro. Hold on. Come here, Churro. Come here.
I think we can guess the breed too. I'm gonna say Chinese crested because I have one and I almost named it a similar name. Yep, I have a Chinese crested too. Those are the best.
Oh yeah, he's a mod.
Mine's hairy, hairless, or whatever, like kind of in between.
Yeah. He looks like
that dog's bark sounds like my neighbor's dog that wakes me up every morning, Coco.
Yeah.
Poor Coco, like his daddy leaves for work and then he comes running outside and he just howls for at 6 a.m. I'm like, God damn it, Coco. But
it's funny, his dog's got like a mohawk.
Yeah.
He's 900 years old.
He's great.
900 years old.
Aw.
Yeah.
I make him circle pit in the yard. Like he goes, it looks like a white wizard flying through the yard.
Oh, that's
I'll just send you a video. It's hilarious.
But so the first day of rehearsal, I was like, well, maybe I'll go to Target and waste some time. And then I go and they were like, dude, where are you? Where have you? And I was 45 minutes late. I got the time wrong. I don't even know. I still don't know how that's possible. Might be pulling my leg, but everybody was there. So I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. The very first day I was late.
Yeah, that's good. I like that guy.
Yeah, it just another interesting success story. A guy who's been in a lot of big name bands and who seems like a very accomplished guitar player. Let's put it that way.